Hi, this is Michael Gray and welcome back to my studio in Surrey. We're going to carry on dissecting some more of my tunes. So this is a new track of mine that's going to be coming out on Midnight Riot, and I've called it Voyage. It was called Disco Robot, but sounded really crap name, so Voyage is the name. So this track started with this riff, arpeggiated a riff with 20% swing roughly, and what's playing it is this. The Moog, which I absolutely love, classic machine. It's used in so many things, as you probably know. And here we can see it going around. So it's three oscillators running. The main one is that one with the top riff, slightly bit low end, and that's the main thing. I've also got it so it slightly moves around with the filters, and you can see where here it's going. Sort of will dip down, low cuts very slightly, and then back up again, just so it sounds like it's moving around. The next thing after that is establishing the kick drum like I normally do, and the kick is firing from a favourite of mine again, the Metrum, and that consists of, just go down to on its own, 1, 2, 3 kicks in all. So there's that one, just for the top end. You can hear the cut, the thud, and then just one more. Typical, the moment I do that, it went into a high pass. So there we go, there's the 3. With that, just a short hat to go with the riff, so we'll play the lot together. Just loop that for you. Then some old which I've just looped up. I can't actually remember where that's from, but some multi-track where you've got the original drummer playing this live. Just gives it a nice funky swing to it, so it stops it sounding too straight. Then with that, then we add a clap. There's 3 claps that make this up. The first one is one I used on the Sylvester remix, what I called Joe Clap. And just a sample, again, I've taken the bottom end off, so it's not all clunky. So that's that. And then I've added this one with it, which just gives it a little bit more push. Again, the same sort of treatment normally goes on as well. The Pro Q2 to take off without that. It'd be like that. In fact, there's a dirty great big kick drum under that as well, where I've sampled it from. So there's those 2 work well together. And then there's a third one, which is just more of a live one, and I've got very panned left and right. So okay, so here's the claps all together, and then put them alongside with the kick and the hi-hat. We got that. So a nice little swing. Okay, so adding to that, we now add the push snare. You just hear it just before the 3rd beat, and again, let's just see, there's no real swing on that, it just didn't need it, so it sounded right as it was. And then all together with the mini Moog playing as well. Now some congas I've added. Now these are great. I originally get these from my loop browser, so if I bring up loop browser, and I then get a whole choice of different samples, and they're all time stretched and ready to go. I'm really into using Shovel's percussion at the moment, and these are his congas, and then that just works in the mix. And then a shaker as well. Shovel shaker again. With this, I just tend to keep it live and not have to cut it up and quantize it. I just choose the one which I think just grooves the best with the riff or the bass line that I've got. So that's the main elements really. a few snare rolls as well. So if I let the track play on now, you should see it. There's a sweep as well that will come in, just effects. Snare roll as well, put back in. Would help if I took it off cycle. Okay. First thing I bring in is the electric bass. Okay, so just very, very simple. And what plays that is something that I use a hell of a lot, which is Omnisphere, and brilliant bass sounds on this. So if I actually go to this modern 4-string, it's the one I use for the weekend. There's just loads and loads to choose from. Again, I could use the same bass line on something else and it just doesn't work at all. So again, a lot of it is just choosing which sounds right. I could be spending half an hour on this. Again, it's velocity sensitive, so you know, sometimes it will sound amazing on one track, another track it won't sound good at all. And then if I put that bass in, the hardest thing of this was the fact that I've got a arpeggiated sort of synthy bass line, and then I'm trying to add a normal bass line under it as well. So that did take quite a while trying to get the whole lot to gel together. So I introduced it first just by high passing the drums, which are on a group, and just using normal Simplon. And I normally have it just preset as well. And I can just switch in and out with the bypass effect. Vintage warmer just warms up that bus group as well. So and then back to here. Okay, so with the bass, we've got quite a few different effects on here. We've got the R bass, which just gives it a little bit more bottom end. We've got the Maserati, which just gives it more of a rough character, and also sidechain when it's in the mix. Quite hard here, but when it's in the breakdowns, if I rewind that a bit, you'll see that it then changes to quite light. So the moment all the drums kick in, this will change straight over to having a lot of impact. Here we go. So I'll put it back in the mix. And the hardest thing of all was trying to make sure that bass line, the arpeggiated one, the Moog that you're hearing, and this bass both cut, because they are slightly rubbing together with each other. But you know, you want that effect, and that's how you have to work it. I also added a guitar. This is my girlfriend's son, Kieran, who played this little piece here, and I'll play it to you now. And you can see where I've just chopped up a few bits just to get the timing a little bit more suitable for this groove. The effects that I put on the guitar, I use the guitar amp. Yeah, so I'll play it to you without, and take that off as well. And also it goes through a group, and there's a few more things. This is how it originally was. So there's side chaining on it, vintage plate, reverb, and then a super tap, which just gives it as more of a stereo left to right feel. Just put this back on as well, and that's the guitar amp, which does a hell of a lot. So, and then the Pro Q, which has really taken off a hell of a lot of bottom end of that. So again, it cuts in the mix. That's the whole lot together. Okay, the next element I added to this is this little vocal sample, and just looped it up just to get this sort of to create the tension, and I just loved what I call a good clash against all the music. So you'll see, again, all I've done is used a volume fade up. It will fade up to the breakdown, and then it will come back down again as well. So if I play this in context. hear it creeping up. So everything's now playing, every single part of the percussion is playing. And then we're going to filter the mini moog down. Okay, so into the breakdown, everything's filtered slightly. And this sample, again, what I've done, I've moved the EQ around, a bit of an old school way of doing it really, but you can see where it's moving. Just so it feels like something is just weirdly happening. The bass line's also going into a full 4-bar pattern. Guitar in. Then we're bringing the shaker. Now towards the end here, everything's slowly getting high pass filtered. So I'm thinning everything out, all the drums. And everything's in. Now the thing that I've added in to make it take it to the next level is I've copied the Mini Moog filter pattern and I've added this. Just a square sound. So when the whole lot comes in this time, you'll hear this. Sounds quite 80s, early 80s. Then everything now is just slowly filtering and fading out. Bass, have a break from all that madness, and then take on a bit, then just down to drums. And then again, so it's nice and easy to mix out of as well. And that is Voyage. One of the records I'm best known for is a track called The Weekend, which I made in 2004. I was inspired by an ad-lib at the end of an Oliver Cheaton record and re-sung it with a amazing singer called Shenna and Xavier, and sung the chorus and put some chords behind it, and then left it for about a year, went on to do something else, produce a band, which is very different for me, and then I went back to it and the whole thing just, lucky enough, all came together. The lead riff that plays in The Weekend is from Mini Moog, and it's something that I played in with MIDI, but when it comes to the stuttering part at the end, there was no quantize I could find for it, so I just played it in and then just guessed roughly where it should go, and it seems to sound right. Hopefully no one's tripped over on the dance floor to it, and it's worked out well. The keyboards, the pads I used a JV 1080, if I remember correctly. That's the pad. And the Rhodes was JV 1080 with a 60s and 70s expansion card, which I sadly don't have anymore. I have the multi-track, but not those synths. I should have kept them. The bass line was the Trilogy, which I've started using again. And still has a great sound. The whole thing was mixed through a Dynasone compressor limiter, which sadly does not work anymore on my latest Cubase 10, and just gives it that massive squashing effects sound. I didn't sidechain anything on it. The whole mix was pumped through that, and the more I pushed up the kick, particularly certain frequencies of the kick, the more the track would bounce. So that's why in the breakdowns of The Weekend, you get this sort of nice sort of lull feeling, and then when it kicks in, you get quite a hit from it. Something that I don't think many people do anymore. Again, I was very inspired by artists like Daft Punk and that whole French sound for that record. I'm one half of Full Intention, and we started working together in 1995. We then went on to remix records like Duke, So In Love With You, which to this day gets played, which is fantastic, mainly by us, by DJ, no, by a lot of people, which is good. And we then went on to remix for artists like J-Lo, George Michael, Duran Duran, Brandy. We've been very, very lucky. Probably the trickiest one to do was probably J-Lo, because again, it was a very slow record. I think it was about 93 beats per minute. And back then the technology wasn't there to time stretch. We actually cut up every single syllable that she sung. And that probably took about a day just to do that before we even started the mix. That was just over probably a 126 beats per minute kick drum just to get the timing. However, the good thing was when it came to her doing TV performances in America, we learned that she did it to our house mix, which is a great feeling, because normally the house mix is the one that's just used for clubs, and this was actually used for television, which is a good feeling. The George Michael we remix is probably one of the most I'm most proud for, because we received a Grammy nomination for it, and the track was called Amazing. Before Full Intention, I had a pseudonym with John Pern, my Full Intention partner, called Hustlers Convention. And before that was called Greed. About that time, which is about 1990, we were also engineering and playing keyboards for other artists. And slightly ravey stuff, just slightly. And we used to use an S900 for nearly every single bass line. The S900, it wasn't a bass as such, it was a tone, and we used to tune that down. We used to think it sounded absolutely amazing. A lot of people came to us for this fat sound we used to get at my mum's house in the studio there, and until Pete Tong played one of them, and then once the compression hit in on Radio 1, when he played it, the bass line kicked in, and it sounded terrible. So I learnt then by my mistakes it's great to have this massive sounding fat bass, but on radio it just sounds awful. Club, probably great. So when I make records this day, I'm continuously checking in the car and on larger set of speakers, on these small Genelects, everything. Even I'll check on a laptop or on my phone to see if that bass cuts on every single frequency without sounding terrible. So to be honest, even to this day, I learn by my mistakes. Okay, so that's all we got time for, but thank you for joining me. And if you want to catch me online, it's Michael Gray Official. That's for Facebook. For Instagram, it's Michael Gray UK. You can get me on SoundCloud and Mixcloud as well. And I wish you well with your own productions. Good luck.